What a week. Well, I kind of don't even know where to begin, but I'm going to be covering a lot in this video, and I'm sorry if it's a little meandering, but this has been, well, to be honest, one of the most surprising weeks in Pokemon Unite's history. A week that's been simultaneously exciting, confusing, stressful, contentious, and overall extremely underwhelming, I have to say. I feel like this might be the worst few days of Pokemon Unite I have ever played, and I recognize, you know, as a sentence, who cares, right? Whoa, the worst few days of Pokemon Unite you've ever played? Stop the presses, this needs to be front page news. And even though this is a video game where Pokemon battle each other on Eos Island, an island that previously did not exist, and while I recognize I don't know if there could be a more first world problem than a very annoying meta inside of a video game, I'm going to talk about it with sincerity, and I'm going to give it the weight it deserves given that it is what I do here on this channel. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about Pokemon Day, I'm going to talk a little bit about Zacian, I'm going to talk a little bit about where we are with this situation, the reaction from the community, my thoughts on this whole thing, and then finally, I'm going to give my thoughts to the developers of this game. Let's just start with this. Zashian was released inside of Pokemon Unite on Pokemon Day, or I guess, you know, a few hours before Pokemon Day, and you could get it right away if you bought a lot of these adventure dice and then completed the missions very, very fast. You could unlock this Pokemon right away. I could be wrong about this, and please feel free to correct me in the comments, but I believe it is the most expensive Pokemon that you could unlock if you just unlocked it through paying right away. I believe it is the most expensive one, I think. Not only did Zacian release completely overpowered, it also released bugged. So it kind of had two massive issues going on. And I've said this a lot about releases, and I'm going to reiterate it here because I do think it's important. I want new release Pokemon to be powerful. I do think they should be good. I don't think they should be this good, but I don't think it's unreasonable that you would want a new release, especially the Pokemon Day release, to be exciting and strong and make a difference inside matches. Not like this. I mean, not like this. I'll get into the bug here in 1 second, but let's just take a look at this Pokemon so we can kind of all together understand why when people say like this is crazy overpowered, it's just even from a raw stats situation, it's overpowered, not to mention what it does inside of a match, which is kind of unbelievable. Let's just start with this. This is something I've seen shared around. This is Zashian at level 1 and Greninja at level 7. You can see that they have almost the same HP. Greninja has slightly more attack, slightly more defense. Basically, a level 1 Zacian is the equivalent of a level 7 Greninja. I know they're two different roles, right? But I'm going to show you that this is kind of true across the board for a lot of things. Here we are on everyone's favorite website, UniteDB, where you can see lots of stats and things with Pokemon. They also, I believe, are the group that figured out that this Pokemon was bugged. They are absolutely fantastic. Let's take a look here. At level 1, Zacian has the most HP inside the entire game. Okay, that feels like a lot, right? I mean, it has the most HP, beating out Snorlax, Blissey, things like that. Okay, fine. It also has the highest attack stat in the entire game at level 1. It also has the highest defense stat, tied with a defender, another all-rounder, and Blastoise, another defender at level 1. It also is tied for the highest special defense stat, a stat that it shares with Wigglytuff. So it has higher stats than every single Pokemon at level 1, and this trend continues in so many different categories, it's mind-boggling. Let's start with a weird one, critical hit rate. This is the only Pokemon to receive critical hit rate at level 2. No one else does. Why does this Pokemon receive critical hit rate at level 2? Yes. Interesting to note, at level 3, it still has more HP than every single Pokemon in the game. It only finally gets nudged out of having the most HP in the entire game by some defenders and supporters at level 4. But again, it's pretty close. As far as its attack stat is concerned, it has the highest attack stat in the entire game until level 7, when speedsters, who are kind of the more assassin bursty type characters, finally overtake it. In fact, if you remove the category of speedster, and I couldn't remove Scyther for this, even though Scyther is technically a speedster inside of, the split there between Scissor and Scyther, it has the highest attack stat in the entire game outside of the speedster class. Every single other attacker and all-rounder does not reach this Pokemon's attack stat. It also continues to sit inside of a category with Pokemon like Crustle, Blastoise, Scizor, Mamoswine with its special defense and defense stats as it continues to level up, finally getting outpaced by Pokemon whose only job it is to defend things once you get to about level 9 or so. And another just interesting little tidbit, up until level 13, outside of supporters and defenders, no one has more HP than Zacian. It just doesn't feel right. I think a lot of the reason it doesn't feel right is because even if you look at a Pokemon like Tyranitar, you need to do so much more to make Tyranitar good than you need to do to make this Pokemon good. Again, we haven't even talked about the bug. We haven't even talked about its moves, which are insane. We could go on and on about Zashian, but for a Pokemon with one of the highest attack stats in the entirety of the game, it doesn't seem super reasonable that one of its moves has a 700% scaling off of its attack stat, but here is where we are. Then of course we had the bug with this Pokemon, or multiple bugs. It looked like Sacred Sword was allowing you to ignore 100% of enemy defenses, essentially giving you true damage at level 5 against enemy. It's crazy. If you played against it, you know it's crazy. I don't need to go through this over and over and over. There are still a few people out there who don't think this Pokemon is overpowered for some reason, but I believe those people are called maniacs. We did have some good news in this situation, which is last night we had a bug fix, so it looks like those problems are gone, at least the bugs. I don't know that this is 100% taken care of. I don't know that there aren't other bugs. I think this Pokemon is still unbelievably powerful, but they did take a look at these bugs. The Japanese Twitter said something very, very interesting when it talked about this as well, and now I've seen it reiterated by the English Twitter, which is this: bugs relating to Zacian's Sacred Sword and Metal Claw have been resolved. We will continue to monitor Zacian's battle data and make adjustments. So that second sentence there really hammers it home that they are fully aware that this is the most powerful thing that they have ever created, and they are aware that the community is upset by it, and there will be some nerfs coming to this Pokemon. That is all well and good, and I think it's good that they are kind of letting us know that, while at the same time, I think this Pokemon not only could use an emergency bug fix, it could use an emergency nerf as well. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't happened, if I'm being honest, and I get why people are upset by this. This whole situation has been hard enough without mentioning the fact that there is a weird change to ranked inside of this season. So if you've been a high ranking player inside this game, like Chris Heroes that we're looking at right here, you have entered this season with possibly a sub 50% win rate, because they have been matching you up in ways that are honestly ludicrous. This is the first time in the history of me playing this game that I have had anywhere close to a sub 50% win rate. I am below 50% right now, mainly because I'm not playing Zashian and because of this matchmaking. It is truly ludicrous, and you don't need to take it from someone like me. Take it from someone like Chris, who happens to be one of the most cracked solo queue players inside of the entire game. This player had a sub 50% win rate. It's wild. I'll have a link to that video in the description if you'd like to learn more about that. Basically what has happened is, the higher your MMR was, your ranking at the end of last season, you have somehow kept that MMR while being thrown back into Ultra. So you have a very high rating, and when you have a very high rating, they pair you with very, very low rating players in a way to sort of balance it out. So now you're in this horrible situation where if you are a high-ranked player and you are not playing the most broken Pokemon in the entire game, and you're running into another team that has it, you are almost assuredly going to lose. Like, every single thing that could be stacked against you is stacked against you. And that's why it's been the worst start to a ranked season that they have ever had. There's been a lot of conversation about Zacian and about the people playing it or abusing the bugs or all of these things, and I can only blame the player base so much with something like this. I will say to the players, if you're a very, very good player at Pokemon Unite and you're abusing the most broken Pokemon in the game, whether it's Zashian or if you only spammed Mew at the time Mew was the most broken, or Mime when it was the most broken, or during the Absol meta you only played Absol the entire time, I have to say, I think it's a little, what's the right word? I don't know. Laughable, pitiful, inexcusable. These are harsh words, but I don't know. If you're just a great player who is spamming this Pokemon all the time, I think you're well aware that you're kind of hurting this game. And I do think so. I think the player base is stressed out by this, and it's not fun. And it's cool for you that you're climbing up in ranked, but it doesn't make you any better at this game to abuse the most broken thing inside of it. I get it with some other Pokemon releases, I do. I don't think anything has been this appalling. I don't want to speak too much more on this, and everyone is allowed to do whatever they want to do, and I'm also allowed to think that it's pretty freaking whack. And that's whack, dude. I think it's only fair that now that I've talked about the players, I can talk about the developer behind this game and what's going on right there. I'm in a very fortunate position, and a precarious one, because I do a lot of casting for Pokemon Unite, and I would love to be invited back to cast some of the World Championships. That being said, I'm going to be honest about what I think is happening here. I think releasing the Pokemon overpowered makes sense. I think they should be releasing a very, very strong Pokemon. I think releasing a bugged Pokemon was not intentional. I don't think they intend to release bugs inside of their game. I think that was actually a mistake, and a mistake that they make with a lot of things that happen. This game has a lot of bugs. Every patch we have a new bug that sort of cycles in. However, alongside this hot fix to fix the broken parts of this character, I think it is not reasonable that they didn't nerf this character. I think it is not reasonable that they didn't nerf this character. I'm trying to work out if that even makes sense in my brain. What I'm trying to say is this Pokemon deserves a nerf. They know it deserves a nerf, and I think at this point it's a little unacceptable that they didn't nerf it right away. They nerfed Sylveon right away, and it wasn't even close to this. It was just kind of doing a lot of damage. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and balancing this game is quite hard. They've also made a game that I absolutely love and I think is fantastic, but I think the fact that they have not tuned down this Pokemon at all is pretty unacceptable. They need to. It's not right, and at some point you can't argue that this is a pay-to-win situation, because someone could pay their way into having a Pokemon that is absurdly broken inside this game. And let's be clear, it is absurdly broken. I like making positive content. I like being excited about this game. I like being excited about the community around it. I've just seen that this has been the worst start to a season that they have ever had inside of Pokemon Unite, and I have to be honest, it's been a bummer. I think this is the last I'm going to talk about this topic for a little while until something changes alongside it. For now, I'm going to get excited about what's happening with the tournament series, because there's some really cool stuff coming up, and I know this Pokemon will be nerfed. It's just been a really frustrating start of the season, especially for someone like myself who doesn't want to participate in only playing the most broken Pokemon inside of this game. If you suck all the way through this video, I appreciate it. Again, I'm sorry that my thoughts weren't more concise. I just have a lot of thoughts on this topic, but my general thoughts are this thing needs a nerf, and they know it needs a nerf. And people who are really good and playing it, come on, dude. What are you doing? Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Yeehaw to you and yours. I love you. Let's get back to enjoying this game. I just gotta shake it off. I just gotta shake it off. Okay, let's reload into a game. Whoa, it's on the enemy team. No, I'm kidding. All right, goodbye, everybody.